I'm out here in central Kansas. I'm right along on the Santa Fe Trail, right above two rivers, the Pawnee River and a little bit further away, the Arkansas River. And these towns that are along here were said to have been built in the late 1800s. But I have some really awesome things for you to see along the river, above the river. As I turn around here, there's basically just structures built from extremely old concrete and cement all along here, and also walls built all along here. Right here is what looks to be a really, really old wall. Let me get around where you can see a little better. And there's mortar in between, and these are sandstone, sometimes limestone they'll be called. And these walls seem to have been built all along this area up above these rivers, almost as if these rivers at one point were just massive, and these were to protect from the water rising. But I know right above here, it's been filled in now. There was a well, or what was termed to have been a well. I don't know for sure any of it, but it was a round, almost like a silo that went down below. And in fact, it could have been a silo that had been covered up on the outside with dirt. That's what it seemed like. This concrete has been left here, and you know, this has been the same since the 1970s. It was covered and just like this in the 1970s. That's already 50 some years ago, and to fit the narrative for this area along the Santa Fe Trail, it would have had to have been new sometime in the late 1800s. That would have only been a little over 70, 80 years prior to that. And it's been like this the entire time. And all along this river, this wall of essentially a barrier of height, which is then lined with stone and rock, has been built for a number of miles. And the amazing thing is, when you look at trees that grow like this, they grow right in the midst of it, with rock and other things growing right in the midst of it. I've even seen trees out here with brick inside the tree. And you can see how this tree has grown all around all this structure, which would have took a long time. And all along here, these entire hills are lined with everything from rocks that look just like they were scorched or melted. This is a concrete aggregate, but inside of it is this almost slate that's been put there. And this rock is almost like slate on the outside. But of course, these rocks almost seem like they're a little bit more like they could be natural, but then you'll see the slate on there, and you'll find the other ones that are built very clearly with rectangle blocks. But certainly far, far older than 140 years ago, when especially you consider that this was like this 60 years ago or 70 years ago or 80 years ago, which is what local people say. It's always been like this. The wall there in the corner, and all along this rise in land, because above this little rising area is flat prairie for as far as you can see. We come down here and go down into the river, which is about 80 yards away, and then it's flat again for as far as you can see. This is a major barrier hill along here. And right around this corner, it seems as if this, I'm gonna try to make it through here, it's a little precarious. Okay, now I'm up closer to where this turns, a 90-degree turn, and there's an old concrete, like a fence post. And the only need for a concrete fence post in these areas were when it was completely no trees whatsoever, which as you get further west in Kansas, that's definitely the case. But right here, this ridge, once again, that at the top ends up being straight flat prairie. This ridge turns 90 degrees right here. Of course, we have stones all over in the ground here. But as it turns 90 degrees, when we walk down it, we once again get to these constructions that are obviously built for exactly what purpose, I don't know, but when you consider that the river is within sight of here, and the Arkansas, with the famous Arkansas River, is another mile, probably, it's possible that there's times when the entire lower part completely filled with water, and this would have been some kind of a barrier built, because that's clearly a 90-degree turn back into there, comes back out, and those rusty things back in there look to be like just an old bed or a mattress or something somebody discarded in there. But as we go along this hill, these old walls continue, and then these may have marked springs that ran out and down into the river, because further up there are springs exactly like that come out in these areas. But then we have more of the wall structure that continues, and these walls obviously are built far longer than 140 years ago, or even 200 years ago. These walls continue, and then there we have a concrete fence post that is basically just buried in the dirt. And with respect to a mud flood scenario, that land could have pushed up and pushed everything over and stopped right here, and these walls were built at a later date. But that's a concrete fence post. Out here in these parts, they have limestone fence posts north of here, about 8 miles, because that's all there was at a certain point. And obviously the concrete fence posts, that would have been all there was. So there wouldn't have been any tree growth here. What could cause that? You consider that these have all grown up massively in the last 100 years. Some event could have caused that wiped every tree out and covered everything with land. From that fence post right there, when we come over here and take a look at these stones, you can see in between the mortar that's put right in between. This very clearly was built. And to give you an idea where the river is, we turn around and you can see the water reflection as I zoom in. And this was, according to the narrative, a famous area. It's a famous area for the Santa Fe Trail, which runs right along here. The great thing about the history in this area is that the common narrative is that it's so recent that anything you see that is before 1850 obviously goes counter to the current narrative. The question is, when were all these things really built? Well, right down the way here, there are steps to an old house. The old house has never been there prior to the 50s, from the people I've talked to, and prior to that, there's really no evidence of it recently being there. There are steps left, but these walls are obviously extremely old and most likely ancient. And then you can see the mortar right there on them. And there are fragments of red brick along here, but this predates red brick, and it's really amazing. There's some other things down this river and in the pastures adjacent I'm going to show you in videos, but I wanted you to see this first. Post your comments down below. Let me know what you think about these, and I'll see you in the next video.